the historians here in the audience, I've got a real question if you want to do some searching in the archives of Meaderville. When you go up to the mining museum and you go back through the gambling section and the wheel and the gold coin slot machine, and you'll see the bar back there that says Teddy Parish, Rocky Mountain back bar. It's not. I hate to tell you that back bar, that belonged to the Savoy. The back bar in the Rocky Mountain, if you remember, had the square posts.
A lot bigger, too.
Yeah, and a hell of a lot longer. And you could go through the archives, probably dig out some old photographs, or get Sonny O'Day down in Laurel if you want to get a real fight going. And I'm sure he's got some pictures of it, but I've always looked at that bar up there, and there is no way that was the bar that came out of the Golden Family of Rocky Mountain. That's the Savoy bar. The old Brunswick bar was behind the Savoy when it was taken out. I'm sure it is. Yes, sir?
In the class past in the Sunday Montana Center, there was a picture and it says that the Queen was an addition on to Meaderville. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, and this guy says that they have their own post office down in Meaderville. So I'm kind of, and Meaderville wasn't in the city limits of Butte, as far as I understand. So that I'm taking it as a new entity, a different entity than the city of Butte.
It was.
Okay, to the point where if the Queen was an addition on to Meaderville, I was wondering if maybe you could elaborate on that a little bit, or, you know, how did the Queen and Meaderville and...
That's going to be real easy because following me up here, the next one is going to be Jimmy Michelotti. And I'm going to defer all your questions to Jim because he's got buku pictures and history of people and stores and backgrounds on all of McQueen. That's what you were asking me. They have already asked Jim to come up here and do that on the McQueen edition, and he's got volumes of stuff. You can't believe it. He's got the original picture of my aunt's home in Meaderville, my Aunt Mary's house, before the tree. Got a 10 one. But he's going to do McQueen edition. To answer your question, that would be the one for you because absolutely I don't know.
Thank you.
You know, the dividing line was somewhere around the Franklin School, and I don't even know who owned that.
No, the
Where was it?
line was the railroad track.
So there's still I'll tell you another interesting story. What was the name of the lady? Oh, God, it's going to slip my tongue. She had a little candy store and this ice cream parlor right next to the Franklin School. Bonani?
No. Bonino.
B-O-N-I-C-O.
Bonino or Bonetta?
Bonetta. B-O-N.
I was back in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, working in an Italian nightclub. And I met a little gentleman who was Italian. I met him at North Shore Country Club. I was working there too. He was the president and founder of Pabst Blue Ribbon. Neat little guy. And the two guys that I worked alongside were Italian. They had a bad habit of calling people by names when they came to the door, Italian names. And some of them are not very, very nice. And I always say, oh, hi, Vince. And he called me Mr. and Mrs. Coglione or you know, and I'd drop in class. Or anyhow, this little guy who was president of Pabst Blue Ribbon talked to me one night and said, I told him I was from Montana, Butte. I said, oh, God. He said, I know you from Montana. He said, do you know Mrs. Vanetta? And I said, you know, I couldn't believe him. I said, well, there's a little lady there that I get ice cream from. Little kid. Yeah, she's got a little store up by school. He's back there, and he's president of Pabst Blue Ribbon, elderly man at that time. And to go that far away from home to find somebody. You know, that little lady who had a little grocery store wasn't any wiser.
I got a question to ask you. I don't know if anybody knows. Was Mrs. Skinder, remember Skinders? Mrs. Skinder, was she on the...
Mayflower.
Titanic. Yeah. We had a little lady in Meaderville who was on that that survived.
Yeah, that's how she heard her hip.
That's how she got that.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Do you know anything about prohibition in Meaderville?
There was none.
It never happened.
It never happened. I have no idea, what went on during Prohibition in Butte. And obviously, that was the best stroke in the world for organized crime. This Prohibition, put it on the map and got started really, really, really well. But out here, we had wine, and you couldn't afford the rest of the stuff. You had wine and grapple, and I don't know to this day how they...
What more did you want?
What the hell more would you want?
Yeah.
I'll tell you, that was a short night on gravel, too. That's another one. You check your shoes the next morning. It was awfully good,
I
yeah.
just dipped it. I mean, I'd love to have some now.
That's why you didn't grow tall.
Yes. Were there a lot of miners in?
It was all mine.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not getting a sense, the picture you painted,
That's
sort of this entertainment
Well,
center.
as you came into Meaderville, there's one picture there. The main thing when you entered Meaderville was the Leonard Mine.
Yeah.
You had to go underneath the archway, and then in the Leonard Mine yard was another mine called the Calusa. And then my dad worked on one up above called the Tramway. And then there was the Raris, and then there was the Black Rock up above, and that was way up there.
So it was another neighborhood that grew up
Speculator.
around mines and
Yeah.
okay.
They didn't have automobiles in them days, so they lived right next to the mine yards. That's how
They
it
watered
was.
my dad walked.
The ground did not belong to the people. This is something you must know. The Anaconda Company owned everything.
Yeah.
There was a few places down there that were claims that were purchased, mining claims. The rest were all leased ground. I think my parents paid $1 a year.
Everybody did.
Ground rent is what they call it. You paid $1 a year.
I think
They owned the
Victoria was
house.
the only one that had the...
But when they bought us out, that was it. I mean, they were decent with the people that didn't own the ground. But when they told you had to go, you had to go.
What was the feeling then when?
They didn't want to go. My mom had lived in Meaderville for 45 years. In a little old house that originally was a two-room log cabin that my dad had built on. He brought the outhouse into the inside. 45 years there, and then in 1960, we'll say 3, somewhere in that area. She held off. She held out. Just about everybody was gone, but she finally had to give in, and they gave her a real nice home in McGlowan Heights. And it was a better home than the house we had in Meaderville in the way of insulation, warmth. But when I moved her out, I loaded my truck and moved everything up to McGlowan Heights except the bed. And when I came down to get the bed, I could not get my mother out of the house. And Norma Matthews and what was the other one? Both. What was your mom's name?
Margaret.
Margaret and Norma Matthews. I had to call them, and they come down and talk to my mother, and we got her to go up to McGlowan Heights. Or she wouldn't have left that house. She would have stayed just that bed. That was it. And the stove. I had the refrigerator, the food, everything up in McGlowan Heights. She was heartbroken. Really heartbroken. They had friends. You leave the doors open, folks, really. We all talk about this. You never locked the door. Somebody wanted sugar, they came in and got it. They brought it back.
Who had keys?
But then she got up there and she lost all her friends. Even though they lived all over McGlowan Heights, she lost her friends. She completely changed. She
Well,
had just a
another
few
thing-
friends and that was it.
Too many of the people didn't live too long after they were chased
Well,
out of
right
their
there, a
homes.
lot of them did pass away.
And they were chased out of their homes.
Yeah.
Like he said, we don't, the Indians felt like now.
Dislocated.
Yes, dislocated.
Dislocated.
They took our land, our homes, everything away.
It was heartbreaking, it really was, to watch the old people. I had an aunt, Lena Vittori.
Yeah.
Now, they owned their ground.
That's why I said
They were
the Tories owned,
yeah.
they were the only ones that did.
Yeah,
And the
well, I think
Cameron-
Lozello owned his too, I'm not sure.
No.
Well, okay.
No.
But anyhow, Lena owned this claim, and my Uncle Fred used to have Fred's place, which is right next to the Rocky Mountain. But she owned it, and she would not deal with the Anaconda Company. And they're blasting this pit, just walking over to us. And they got all behind me, and all of a sudden they blast one day in a great big boulder, right down through the road, right into her kitchen, through the kitchen floor into the basement. Well, she got a pretty good settlement on it, but she didn't move after that. They didn't do it purposely, but somebody overloaded the hole, and that's what happened.
Yeah, we had,
Yeah, North Meaderville had a lot of that rocks poured through.
we had my grandmother's house, and my Aunt Lydia's house was directly across the street from the second Rocky Mountain. And it was in '62 when I got back to Butte. And she was already getting moved then. And we had a large, she had that big wine press.
Who was that, Jim?
My grandmother.
Oh, yeah.
She had a big wine press. And you could put a 50, the dregs of a 50-gallon barrel, 150 in there, and down it would go, you know. And I told my dad, I said, did you save that, it was handmade, wine press? He said he couldn't do it because it was holding up the house. And my poor father and my damn wine press. But he used to make, my grandmother made prosciutto. And that was the pork, leg of pork, and they would cover it with pepper. And then put underneath this big wine press, and then they would torque it. And for weeks or months, they would press this pork down to about that size. And, you know, about every 2 weeks, my grandmother would call, Barney, come on up. My dad would go up and take the saw and cut the bathroom door off. This went on and on. Then I got done with the prosciutto, take the pressure off, and the cat could walk right underneath that one corner of that bathroom. There on the throne, you can look through and you can see everything. When year after year, they jacked that thing up. Then when it came time to move the press. Now then I got a call after I got back. Tino Grosso was still going. My dad called, 11 o'clock at night. He said, you got your little station wagon? I said, yeah. He said, I want you to come down to the old house in here. My mom and dad's house. I go down there, 10:30, 11 o'clock, placard and stuff. What are we doing? We go inside the house, and of course it's all empty. The guy had bought it, and taking this damn still out. He had the still downstairs. The boiler, the cap, and the coil. You take it out of the house, put it in my little used 57 Chevrolet station wagon. And I told him, I said, I just graduated all these bills at dental school. I said, we get caught. I go to jail for 10 years. You know, $5,000, and we're just going to take it to McQueen. Up to McQueen, 11 o'clock. We delivered the still. I think Tino Ross was up. I don't know where it went. I think it went to Bell Park.